All right, good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for being here today. I'd like to take a few moments to reflect on the history of Veterans Day and why it holds such a special place in all of our hearts. Veterans Day has a unique history. Originally known as Armistice Day, it marks the end of World War I. Fighting officially ceased on the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month in 1918. November 11th became a symbol of peace and a remembrance of the sacrifices made by soldiers in that great conflict. In 1954, after the United States had gone through both World War II and the Korean War, Congress renamed the holiday Veterans Day to honor all veterans who served in our military and not just those who fought in World War I. Since then, November 11th has served as a day for us to thank veterans from every branch of service and every era. And today, it's easy to go about our busy lives without thinking too much about the freedoms and securities we enjoy. But those freedoms come at great cost. Behind each right we take for granted are individuals who answered the call to serve, who left their families and often faced danger, hardships, and loss. They made those sacrifices so that we can live in peace and pursue our dreams. Veterans come from all walks of life. Their parents, grandparents, friends, neighbors, and teachers. They are people who put others before themselves, who understand the value of dedication, and who are willing to stand up for what they believe in. By honoring them today, we acknowledge their bravery and their commitment to something bigger than themselves. As Fairmont Cardinals, today is a chance to reflect on what it means to serve, whether it's in the military or in other ways, and to think about the values of courage, sacrifice, and responsibility. Veterans give us a great example of these values in action, showing that true service means putting others first and standing up for what's right, even when it's difficult. As we go through today's presentation, I encourage each of you to keep in mind the individuals we're honoring here today, not just as members of the military, but as people with stories, families, dreams, and struggles. Let us take time to remember their sacrifice and to commit ourselves to upholding the principles for what they fought for. At this time, please rise for the posting of our colors and remain standing as Senior Class President Grace Simpson recites the Pledge of Allegiance and the playing of our national anthem.
Order arms. Iron guys, prepare to post. Post. And salute. 2. Right, face. At a trail. Forward. March.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, you may be seated. At this time, it's my privilege to introduce our veteran speaker for today. Lieutenant Colonel Corey Germain serves as the Air Chaplain of the National Air Guard's 133rd Airlift Wing in St. Paul, Minnesota. In this capacity, Chaplain Germain supervises the members of the Wing's religious support team to ensure that they provide comprehensive religious support to airmen and commanders through ministry of presence, squadron visits, and counseling. He also advises commanders at all levels of the Wing on issues related to airmen morale, morals, and spiritual fitness. Chaplain Germain is a native of Winnebago, Minnesota, and he is endorsed by the Presbyterian Federal Chaplaincies. He has been married to his wife, Ellen, for over 25 years, and they have 2 children, Emma and Cameron. He has served as a civil pastor in churches in the Presbyterian Church and the United Church of Christ denominations for over 11 years. Chaplain Germain first enlisted in the Army in November of 1995 as a percussion player and served on active duty for nearly 10 years. He was commissioned as a chaplain candidate, second lieutenant in the Army Reserve in 2006 and became an Army Reserve chaplain in 2008. He transferred to the Minnesota Army National Guard in 2013 and most recently transferred to Minnesota Air National Guard in July of 2020. Please join me in welcoming Lieutenant Colonel Corey Germain.
Well, as all good speech participants know, you have to change your speech sometimes. So I started with a little history, which you have already heard. But today is Veterans Day, and it is about the approximately 19 million U.S. veterans who are still with us today, and the millions, of course, who have preceded them ever since the American Revolution. Some of them are here with us today, not only here in the front row, but perhaps a few among you that perhaps work with you every day. They serve their community here as teachers, but they also are in our community around us as first responders and healthcare workers and church leaders like myself. Others are business owners and farmers and company workers, and of course retirees as well. And most of you probably know someone. Perhaps you know them as a parent or a grandparent, a brother, a sister, an aunt, or an uncle who has served in our military. Veterans are, by their nature, a diverse group, represented by men and women of all economic, ethnic, and religious backgrounds. They come from every state, every territory of our nation, but they are bound by one common commitment, and that is to defend America with their life if called upon. From fighting terrorism or keeping the peace here at home, fighting floods, rescuing people from blizzards, defeating fascism, or liberating slaves, veterans from every era of service have a record of remarkable accomplishment throughout our nation's history. Military service, as I'm sure most of my fellow veterans would agree, is not really for the faint of heart. It is not always challenging. It is not always brutal. We have fun times as well. But most civilian jobs don't require a person to risk life or limb. Of course, there are many dangerous jobs in civilian worlds as well, but by their nature, they don't require that. No other occupation subjects employees to criminal charges just for disobeying their boss, by the way. Unlike members of the military, civilians can usually choose where they want to live and when they want to quit their job. We don't always have that option. On top of that, we go through plenty of transitions. We move from place to place. We go on deployments, and we have all kinds of other stresses of our job as we keep ourselves physically fit and ready to fight and win the nation's wars. But we often also go through times of isolation, even after taking off the uniform for the last time or retiring. A factor that is something very serious and something that perhaps you have heard a little bit about in the news. Among veterans, there is something very serious, and that is a suicide rate that is, unfortunately, even higher, by some counts as much as 50% higher than that of the American population. As a chaplain, formerly, as you heard, in the Army, now in the Air Force, as well as chaplain here in Fairmont with the American Legion, I can say that without a doubt the stigma of seeking help is something that we need to get past. Veterans, no matter their branch of service, value courage, and courage is what it takes to ask for help, and that goes well beyond the veterans as well. Veteran or not, we need to be proactive in stopping such things. If you know someone who is struggling in your life, ask them about it and encourage them to seek help before they get to a point of no return. Not all of us maybe have everyday access to trained counselors or mental health professionals, but everyone here is capable of listening and referring and following up with a friend or a relative. And so if you or a friend or a family member needs support for suicidal or mental health or substance or use or crisis, I hope that all of you know that there are resources out there. One of the most important ones for all of you to remember is a new number, 988. It's like dialing 911 when you have an emergency, and it is especially for those senses of struggle. If that person is a veteran, they can contact that number and then just hit extension number 1, and it is specifically a veteran resource in that case. But it is available to all of you, and I hope that we can work together to stop that scourge. Now, that's a pretty serious note, I know, but it is something that we all have a role in helping with. But to help us return to thinking about how we honor our veterans on this important day, I'd like to borrow from, a quote that I used actually in a sermon that I preached yesterday at my church. It comes from Bruce Epperly, who is a theologian, spiritual guide. He's a pastor and an author. He says this: Veterans Day is about gratitude and stewardship. On Veterans Day, we proclaim our gratitude to those whose service in the military has secured our freedoms through the years. Whether or not we approve of our nation's foreign policy, we need to support the everyday people, the veterans among us, who fight our nation's wars. And we need to say thank you. And that is important. But he goes on to say, but our thanksgiving should then lead to action, both in support of the well-being of veterans, especially those who have been injured or traumatized by war, and in our own commitment to the common good and our nation's care for its most vulnerable citizens, those for whom our service members sacrifice. Now, just last Tuesday, I'm sure you are aware, there was another important event in the life of our country, and it is fitting that Veterans Day falls so close to, in its observance, to Election Day. For it is, after all, the veteran who has preserved our constitutional right to vote and to choose our nation's trajectory for the last 200 and almost 50 years. Now, but when a politician wants to argue or lament the cost of a veteran program, we as a nation, we as the voters, we as the people of this country need to remind them of what it is, the cost of being a veteran. Most of our veterans would let you know that there is some wear and tear on our bodies, right? We go through a lot of training. We do a lot of crazy things, we might say, whether that's jumping out of an airplane or just carrying lots of gear. So we go through a lot of wear and tear on our bodies. We endure some physical injuries. A lot of veterans have hearing loss from the weapons and various things that we work with. But we've also been exposed to such things as burn pits and other toxins and hazardous materials in our service. Many veterans today continue to pay a high price for their military service. And so it's up to us citizens to ensure that they always have access to high-quality health care and benefits that are fitting of the thanks that this nation wants to offer. Veterans are not only responsible for defending this nation during times of war, but it's the imposing presence of having a strong and ready military that has acted as a deterrent to many would-be aggressors in the history of our country. The veterans of our United States military have not only fought wars, but they deserve our gratitude for preventing wars. And I would be remiss, of course, if I did not also mention the spouses of our military members. We could not do it without them, as well as many a times our own families, children, and our extended families. They have all had to endure career interruptions or changes of address, and of course, caring for children or aging parents, no matter who it is, when a veteran goes off to serve. But for the veteran, the nation, you guys, the country that we represent, this nation is worth enduring those long separations from our children, from our families, from our communities, from missing the births of children or the anniversaries of the birthdays. It's worth serving in freezing sub-zero temperatures or sweating in the jungles or the sands of the Middle East. It's worth sacrificing to us even parts of our health, and far too often even the possibility of losing our lives. Fewer than 10% of Americans can claim the title of veteran. Less than 0.5% of our current population in the United States currently serves in the military. Veterans, those who have served in the military, are the ones who give us freedom to be the citizens that we are today. And they give us the security of being the greatest nation on earth. That is impossible to put a price on that. And so we must recall and remember them each Veterans Day, but not just on Veterans Day, throughout the year. We must continue to appreciate them. And so while we rejoice and honor the service of our veterans, we also remember these wise words from General Douglas MacArthur, which I'm updating just a little bit to include all of our varied military branches. He says this: the service member above all people prays for peace. As veterans, all of us have trained for war, but we have also prayed for peace. As citizens of this great nation, I hope that you will continue to join in working and praying for peace as well. And so may God bless you for being here. May God bless our veterans, and may God bless America. Thank you.
At this time, we have a special music selection from our Bellas and concert choir guys as they sing Homeland. for your attention today and showing the respect and honoring the courage, commitment, and sacrifices of our. It's an honor to gather here and recognize the men and women who have served our nation's armed forces, some of whom are present here today, and countless others who remain in our hearts and memories. Today we've had the opportunity to reflect on the remarkable dedication of those who answered the call to serve. It's important we understand what it means, not just to serve in faraway places during times of conflict, but also to continue to serve veterans who come home and contribute to their communities, families, and our nation in countless ways. As students, you're here at the start of discovering the impact you have on the world around you. Veterans Day reminds us of service, courage, and dedication aren't limited to just one path. Every one of you has the ability to make a difference, whether you're serving in the military or dedicating your time to the community or standing up for what's right. Service is about committing yourself to something bigger than yourself. And veterans give us a powerful example of the resilience and integrity necessary to do that. When we thank them, we're also challenging ourselves to build a society worthy of their sacrifice, to share that respect and honor the freedoms that they fought to protect. Let's remember that honoring our veterans isn't limited to a single day. The respect we owe them is ongoing, and it's a commitment we must have to support them. Today's assembly has given us a chance to pause, to reflect, but to say thank you. Also, the opportunity to think about how we can actively show that appreciation moving forward. Whether it's volunteering with veterans organizations, taking time to learn more about their stories, or simply expressing our gratitude, there are many ways we can continue the spirit of today. In closing, I'd like to ask everyone to carry forward the spirit of today, and let's make sure that in our own way we honor the strength, courage, and dedication of our veterans, not just with words, but also with actions, and show that we understand and value what they've done for us. Thank you again, and let's show one more big round of applause for our veterans. At this time, please remain standing as we retire the colors, and then we will dismiss the veterans first, and then students, you'll be dismissed after that.
Right, face, order, arms. Hand salute, two. Two. Prepare to retrieve. Bow to the face.
At this time, veterans and family, we have refreshments for you in the commons put on by our food service. At this time, you are dismissed. Students, if you could just take a seat quick, please. So in a moment, you all will be dismissed. We'll be leaving school a little early today. We got ahead of schedule. Yeah. But it comes with a stipulation. It does. No. Each year during Veterans Day, I make it a point to call some family member who has served. For me, it's my Uncle Verge. He served as an a Navy pilot for about 20 years, and my Uncle Blaine, who also served. I have two uncles no longer with us who served as well, and I do have some friends that served. And I try to make it a point on Veterans Day to call them and just thank them for their service. Now, one of the things that's really important, and maybe you've heard throughout today, is just the stories that our veterans have. And we've got 20 veterans in the Commons right now having some refreshments, and that's a tiny token of, saying thank you. But them having the ability to share their story, share some of the things they were able to achieve or experience while in the military is worth so much more than what they're receiving right now. So as you leave today, make it a point to go over and just meet one of them and say thank you. It doesn't need to be all of them, but meet one. Learn their name, learn what branch they were in, and what year they went into the service. Make it a point to go out of your way as you get to leave early today to do something for them, show them that recognition. Without that, I never would have known some of the cool things my uncles had done and my grandfather had done, and the places they went and experienced, the people they met, and the incredible things that they brought back to their community through their service. And by sharing their stories, they're able to better share and better, share those opportunities with you. And maybe through their stories, you get a glimpse of some other possibilities that maybe you weren't aware of before. So with that said, I'm going to go with 9th grade and 7th and 8th grade at this time. You are dismissed. Seniors, you are next. Juniors. And sophomores, thank you for your attention. Have a great rest of your day, everybody.